I'm Julian Perry, host of 247 Tech Talk.
And I'm Ludwin Cruz with Madman Wrenchworks.
And together we are Moto
Mosaics.
We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. As I said, I'm Julian Perry, host of 247 Tech Talk, and I have with me the co-host of this amazing venture between 247 Tech Talks and Madman Wrenchworks, none other than
Ludwin Cruz.
And together we are here to take you from here to everywhere and anywhere, everything Moto. Come join us as we go on this journey together. Ludwin, why don't you start off by telling everybody about you, your background, and Madman Wrenchworks?
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for that intro. So yeah, a little bit about my background. I am a Miami, Florida native, actually born and raised in Miami, Florida. And as a young child, I was obsessed with creativity and just drawing and painting and doing different things like of that sort. And of course, in Miami, there's a lot of creative and individuality because of so much of a mix of cultures. So all of that actually kind of brought me to Michigan. I ended up getting a full scholarship here to the College for Creative Studies. And I ended up studying industrial design with a focus in automotive design. And from there, I mean, I've always been kind of attracted to just machines in general, right? Of course, growing up, excited about Star Wars and these little spaceships. And to me, vehicles, motorcycles, and everything in between that transport us was something that always kind of caught my attention, right? And here we are. I mean, I spent the last, I want to say, a little over 12 years of my life in the automotive industry, working for different companies from Ford to Stellantis, formerly known as FCA. So I've worked with Alfa Romeo, Dodge, Ram. Currently, right now, my full-time job is as an interior design manager for Jeep North America. And there's something interesting that happened along the way from my experiences, designing different vehicles from sports cars to family cars. But more recently, in the last couple of years, being more focused in the Jeep realm, those vehicles, especially with the Wrangler, right? Like it's very open. So experiencing a lot of that just being out in the open and having the tops off, of course, and just being able to kind of just feel one with nature in a way, but still be like kind of like holding on to a machine. It really piqued my interest, and I've always been excited to kind of see what else I can experience that way. And of course, motorcycles was kind of like the next kind of leap from that, to kind of really feel one with the road, but feel one with the openness of the environment as well. And I ended up getting my first motorcycle, I want to say about probably a little over a year and a half ago.
So what made you go into Madman Wrenchworks?
So Madman Wrenchworks was actually something that was born out of the need for me to kind of turn my machine into something that's more uniquely mine. Right. Just like all of us, we have our cars, we have our individual mobility devices, right? And we kind of always want to make something a little bit more unique, right? Like, you can see it anywhere and everywhere, right? You're driving around in whatever vehicle you're in, sure enough, on your way to work or wherever you're going, you're going to come across a vehicle that either has a bumper sticker, has a bunch of stickers, or has some sort of custom creative little something nod that kind of like showcases the individual that's actually driving that vehicle. So Madman Wrenchworks was actually pretty much that. When I first got my motorcycle, I kind of became obsessed with trying to figure out ways that I can tweak it and modify it and make it mine, like truly a persona of mine, right? And it's funny because like the name, for example, was something that people keep asking me about, like why Madman? Why didn't you pick something else? And when I say I was obsessed, I mean, I really became obsessed. Like it ended up becoming hours and hours where I would just be either in the garage tinkering on my motorcycle. And if I couldn't be in my garage, then I'd be like at my desk, drawing and just kind of figuring out what would be the next move to make it kind of unique. So my older brother, actually, he called me one day. I'll never forget this. And he was like, hey, let's go out and let's grab like an ice cream and like, watch a movie. And before I could even respond to him, he kind of giggled and he's like, "Or are you just gonna stay in your basement working like a madman in a studio?" So like it kind of spawned from there the idea of Madman for the branding. But in all honesty, is just that's kind of how it started, you know. So Madman Wrenchworks kind of was born again from that idea. Just this idea to kind of create something that allows for me to make my machine unique. And at the end of the day, I created the brand and started the company so that I can kind of offer that to other individuals out there. So I would like to be almost like a beacon of creativity or a resource for other individuals to be able to make their machines as unique as they are.
That's amazing. That's amazing, and it's funny because here we are in a collaborative podcast in the journey, and my journey is quite different. Those folks who have been on my YouTube channel will know that for 10 years I wrote tech reviews for thegadgeteer.com. It is an online tech review sort of forum that was started by someone by the name Julie Strellemeyer 28 years ago. And I
Wow.
became a writer about 10 years ago. I was a subscriber to to the newsletter, and it was just reviews and gadgets, and I've been like that since I was a kid, you know. My father is 94 years old now, and he still has little radios and stuff that he keeps for a sentimental value that I took apart and could never put back together, or took apart and made something totally different out of what they were and left the other parts to the side. So that's been
Awesome.
me. So I started 247, Tech Talk, after I joined the Gadgeteer and realized that I got a chance to review these things and I wanted to record them historically. So while most of the writers were doing pure written reviews, I was doing written reviews with an inserted video, an embedded video that I would do on my own. And the
Mhm.
owner, Julie, was nice enough to say, "I'll let you do that." And so I'm lucky enough that most of those videos are have say historical value now because not only are they the embodiment of what has been 247 Tech Talk so far, but they are directly linked to the Gadgeteer, which is going to be 30 years old soon, and I have ownership of them. So that's an amazing thing.
Wow.
Um, when I was about, I want to say 21 years old, I think I had my first motorcycle, and I was at a stoplight in Jamaica, Queens, New York, waiting for the light to change, and I got hit from behind.
Oh
The
wow.
bike went down. I managed to get off the bike, um, took it home and sold it, and stopped riding for about 18 years. But I kept having this gnawing at me. I wanted to get back on a bike because it offers something unique. So I went out and I got the Iahora Night M1PS electric motorcycle. And almost within the same month, I went out. That was, I wanted the gas version, and I got a Honda Rebel 500 SC um, ABS, and immediately I modded them both.
Yeah.
And it so turns out that Iahora loved what I did, and my Iahora bike is part of their website, part of their promotions, and they're now a sponsor of mine, a collaborator of mine. So this year, as we move forward, the readers or the viewers will also see, mods that I will do from them. But then my knees, which had been bothering me for 15 years, just gave out on me. And I almost dropped the Honda one day. And I said, electric motorcycles are much lighter, but I wanted a gas motorcycle. And the thing is, in between getting that and getting the Riker, I have something called a Top Mate that's on my website as well. It's a three-wheel, for maybe a much for someone much older than I am, but I couldn't walk, and so I went to an outdoor fair with my family, and they're walking around. Here I am on this three-wheel. And
Uh,
the thing about it, I said, wait a minute, this allowed me the same freedom and everything else, and I can't fall. So I walked right into a Riker dealer here in New York, handed them my Honda. My Honda was so modded out that they gave me over market value for it, and
awesome.
walked out with a Riker. Much like the viewers will see on your website, madmanwrenchworks.com, how amazing your bike looks. And I think you have the 900, right?
Correct. Yeah, I have a
Right.
Riker 900
Right.
ACE.
Right. So I bought the 600. So I'm sitting there And I often tell people the decision, the money is very close. It wasn't a, it was the decision was I looked at both bikes and I says which one can I go craziest on, and if I ever do something too crazy, right, I can get away with it. And
Right.
so it's been the first time in modding a bike like the Riker. I wasn't sure with the panels and everything else
Mhm.
what I could do. So I said, let me get the 600. I can tell you that the whole bike's been modded. Even the panels I've cut to make
Awesome.
ways for wires and things,
Hell
which
yeah.
which we'll showcase to our viewers on this channel. Um, and funny enough, I always do things that no one else does. And since you and I have met, you've seen already that I've got this mind that's not normal. I tell people, and so I was looking for not normal things for my Riker,
Yep.
and somehow I landed on Madman Wrench Works,
And that's
and
great for
that's
me here,
yeah, and
honestly,
the
because
rest is history, right? The
yeah.
rest is
And honestly,
um
that's and just to add to that, I mean, that's incredible because of the fact that, I also fell into that trap. When I started to mod my Riker, I started going online, and after hundreds and thousands of Instagram posts that I've seen, I just kept seeing that everyone had like the same thing, just a different color.
right.
And that irked me to no end because it was one of those things where I could see the thirst, if you would, for people to make it unique, but it's almost like they were limited, and I was limited, right, when I was modifying my own Riker. So that's kind of what really kind of started to kind of push me into this direction of making my own, because there was a specific look that I had, and I'm sure for you it was probably the same. There's when you have something, there's an idea, there's a thought, and it's like you can see it, right, and it's almost like you can reach out and grab it because you just have this idea that's just so perfectly in focus in your own brain. But yeah, for me, it was kind of the same thing. I just wanted to build and work on something and just make it really look truly unique and different. So I had to build my own parts because I couldn't find them anywhere.
The thing about it that's unique about that is, and the sort of merger or collaboration we have here, mine is twofold. My unique look is sort of add-ons, and I chose, say, for the same reason you said. I looked to say, okay, I bought, the owner of the dealership threw in panels for me, and I said, no, I want the black graphite panels.
Yeah.
So the whole bike was black, and I came home and I said I wanted that because now I have a blank slate. And
Yeah.
like you said, I looked online and everybody is, and don't get me wrong, there are beautiful bikes out there,
Absolutely.
but they're all sort of the same. They're wrapped, they're put on molded speakers. And eventually I looked and I said, if I did that and we parked 10 Rikers in a line, how would people know about my craziness, different models? So
Yeah.
I decided to go with a carbon fiber integration for the entire bike. And I also, I'm a gadget person. So one of the things that people may or may not like about my look, and it's okay because guys online with my, like, I have the Naxion I Am Pro electric motorcycle as well, and I've done some mods, and some guys say great functionality, but I wouldn't do that to my bike. And while most people would take that as, take me taken back by that, I'm invited by that, right?
Yeah.
Because the rest of people look at my bike and say, yeah, they might not do that to their bike, but that's because they don't push the boundaries I push. I'm also someone who likes gadgets, right? So my cockpit, so to speak, would look like very confusing to most people, right? Some people might even think it's too crowded, and I'm okay with that.
Of
When
course.
the videos come out this year, they'll see the functionality of it. I'm someone who sits on a bike
Yeah.
and short of pressing a button and getting a cup of coffee, every tech that I can lay out on this bike is laid out on this bike,
How amazing would that
along
be,
with the
right?
shade,
Hit a button
right?
on the ride and a little espresso comes out where you can take a sip.
Exactly. Don't give me ideas now. So, so, but the thing about it that made me attracted to being your very first customer, and I'm very proud of it. I have the token to my, people can't see it's on my wall with the beautiful letter you wrote. Or I want to call it the certificate because it's customer number one.
Absolutely.
Is that you had this organically wild look with functionality. So it just wasn't, you can go buy any panels you want for the Riker, the ones that mimic the stock panels, and they're different colors and they're different. But and you can do the little bolt-on graphic pieces too.
Yeah.
But that's all they are. Their look. Right?
Hmm.
Riding my Riker when I first got it, I did feel what like many people said, it was shaky.
Yep.
So I've installed a stabilizer, right? And but I also know I don't ride really fast anymore. I'm not into that anymore. But
Hmm.
in New York, you got some up and down roads and
Yeah.
pothole. And I noticed that it felt like air was getting up under the bike, and that's something that I felt.
Yep.
So I can't remember the exact words I used in the search engine, but I landed on your site. And suffice to say that I've done the video that shows the splitter for the front I have and the
Hmm.
canards that I will again showcase this year. We'll showcase together as I install them. But should we tell them? Nah, we won't tell them right now. We have a few custom pieces, right?
Absolutely.
That we're gonna perfect, right? That will help them uniquely or make their bikes unique because of how they can do it. So for the folks out there, I reached out to Ludwin. We clicked and we saw each other's craziness. And we thought collaborating and adding flavor to the not only the Riker, we started with the Riker community, but we're not limited to the Riker community. But there's so much passion in Riker owners,
Mhm.
and I'll say this, and then I'll let you jump into um, your customization more. But I think because Riker owners are finally getting seen as motorcyclists. And I think I want to, people like me especially, play the unique role because when I started talking about the Riker on my channel, I identify, or many people identify with me, people who had knee surgery. And
Yeah.
that's why they went to, and we
Interesting.
took offense when people said, "Well, that's not a motorcycle." Yes, it
Right.
is,
Yeah.
right? So it's just a matter of I can't hold up my two wheel anymore, but I still want to have the same enjoyment. And to be honest with you, having been on both platforms, I feel much safer on my Riker.
Mhm.
One, because in riding a motorcycle, many times you look out the corner of your eye and you see a car crossing into your space in the lane. The Riker
Mhm.
takes up a car space in a lane,
Yeah.
right? And if you get, for some reason, have to eject or you get ejected, you're not falling with the bike.
Yeah.
You have much more chance of getting off the bike or being
Mhm.
through off clear than a motorcycle. I said I was hit, so I know, right?
Right.
So getting that out the way, tell me about your customization. Let them know about all you've done.
Yeah, no, definitely. But honestly, just to respond to even what you're saying, it's fascinating to me because of the fact that my first experience on a motorcycle was a Riker, right? And it's very much like your story, in a sense. I asked for the all black too because to me that was a blank slate that I can start from, right? But what's interesting now, hearing your story, for me, I think what attracted me to the Riker before even getting on a two wheel, because motorcycles, again, right? That was like the next thing for me, right? But when I was walking through the dealership, looking at all the two wheelers and being super excited, this weird thing on the corner of my eye is what caught my attention. And when I looked at it, it was a Riker. And as I walked up to it and I was approaching it, like I remember feeling like, wow, this thing is fucking weird and strange. But that also kind of gravitated me to it more. The fact that it was so bizarre and so different. And I think that, from me being just a creative individual myself, I feel that I always pride myself in the fact that I am different from other people, like, so do you talked about like your craziness and our craziness kind of combined together, right? Like, I think that's case in point, right? That we're all so individual. And I think that that was something that I found very like alluring about the bike to begin with, the fact that it was different. I
Right,
will stand out there in the road, right? So that really like took me to it. But going back to, yeah, I got all black as well, because I did want a blank slate to start from. And going to what you were talking about, like your sensation of feeling the airflow at the bottom, having the experience that I've had designing, vehicles for several years of my life, the Riker does kind of, get hit with the same, aerodynamic problems that a vehicle does. A car, right, has two wheels in the front. and a mast in the front, right? And one wheel in the back, of course, which is like a motorcycle. So the fact that it's that setup in the front where the air hits first, you're going to run into the same aerodynamic, constraints, I guess, if you would, like a car does. So for me, that was almost one of the things, even riding my motorcycle home for the first time. I
Hmm.
remember feeling that kind of like that vibrating, that little bit of that shake, and at times, of course, me driving it home, I started kicking it as hard as I can because I wanted to feel how fast it could go, right? But that was like the first thing that I started thinking was, okay, let me go ahead and look for like a splitter, because splitters are not, they're not a novice thing, right? They actually use
Right.
this in vehicles and sports cars, race cars, and there's a function for it, and of course, going online and starting to do this research, I was like, I got exacerbated with the fact that I could not find one, because there were different chins out there. There's like this metal, and I forget what the name of the company is, but they have like a thin metal chin spoiler thing that you can put on there, and it sticks out probably like half an inch on the front of the Riker. And if you have that front metal bar, the strong
Sway
radiator
bar.
protector, forget about it. I think disappears, right? So
Oh, okay.
going
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
there, yeah. So going out there, I couldn't really find one that actually did the job that it's supposed to do for that reason, right? So at that point, I was like, okay, and even my wife, I remember she kind of kept, because I started like just ripping out Amazon boxes in the garage, and I started just cutting like paper mache, just started cutting a bunch of shapes. And she would kind of walk in from bringing in groceries, see me in the garage fiddling, and she'd look at all those cardboard boxes and like, what are you doing, and yeah, I kind of landed on a shape, that I kind of was reminiscent of the Riker's design. And that's something else that I realized very quickly as I did my own research, right? Like, there were a lot of things that were designed for this bike, but it felt like none of them took into consideration the actual aesthetics of the motorcycle. Like, I think there was also like a front body kit that I saw, made by I think the emblem is like some sort of like cat or something like that, but it's like a whole hood, whole front end clip. Um and it's cool, don't get me wrong, like, again, everything that I say with no malintent, I think is really cool, awesome that they tried to do something unique. But I think that there's like a sensitivity that we have as just humans, whether creative or not. When you look at something, it's like, okay, when something looks cohesive, right, you tend to fall more pleasing when you look at it, right? So
Right.
for example, this front end and even those spoilers that I saw on the market, it's like they disregarded what the shapes were happening on the bike itself. So they look very foreign, they look like something that just wasn't fitting. So I landed on a shape that actually paid attention to a lot of like the shapes and forms that are happening within the Riker. And once I landed on that part, I was like, okay. I ordered a sheet of ABS plastic from Amazon. I ended up cutting it with a sawzall, which was a pain in the butt. I don't know if you've ever experienced cutting that type
Yeah.
of stuff, but it is not easy. So I had this janky, jagged little, piece of plastic, and I remember figuring out how to mount it on there for the first time, and I kind of took a shot. Before, it wasn't with the struts that you will see on my website. There's two different writing modes that I have on there, but the first time that I put it on, it was actually sticking out. I want to say about 2.5 inches forward of the Riker. And I remember going that ride, and immediately it wasn't a very strong sensation that I felt, but I could actually feel the bike hunker down the faster I would go.
Right.
And at that point I was like, all right, it serves a function, like there is a reason for this, right? And then from there, yeah, from there I kind of just I went all in, and I started to that's when I became madly obsessed with trying to figure this out. Because that's what it was. It's like, I want this on my bike, so I'm
Right.
going to figure it out. And I did. It got to the point where after a few iterations, I ended up ordering, I think, like 3 or 4 more different of the panels of like those ABS plastics. And then finally I found a gentleman locally here in Michigan. They do outdoor signage, and he, of course, he had like a machine, like a big CNC machine, and he had other tools. And I went in there and I just was like, look, I need help with a sign. I didn't even tell him what it was. I was like, I need
Right.
help with the sign. And he was like, well, do you have like an intent what it's supposed to look like? I go, no, 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 here's the shape. I ended up modeling it in CAD. I was like, here's the shape, just cut the shape out of this material. I handed him a sheet of plastic. He cut the shape. I didn't tell him I drilled my own holes and everything. Went back, I put it on, and officially that's when I really was able to feel the difference. Having all the edges be perfectly cut and be shaped and formed the correct way. At that point, I was like, okay, this is it. I landed on something that I feel good about. And I think that that same ride, it was a weekend, that same weekend that I went out riding just because I was excited about feeling it, right? And kind of enjoying it. I think I got stopped 6 times. 4 times were from people who had Rikers and Spiders. Two of them were just random people that were interested in what this thing was that I was riding because I've never seen one before. First,
Right, right, yeah. A lot of
um,
people haven't seen it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But what was is fascinating to me is and this is something that I'll never forget. I think all of them, they would stop me and they would, start talking to me very friendly. Man, this thing is cool looking, but they could not pinpoint what made it look so awesome in their words, right? They were like, man, this thing, they were like, I've seen other ones on the street, but they were like, man, like I've never seen one like this, and they kept staring like, why does it look so different and so like mean, in a good way? And I kept kind of quiet at first, I was, oh yeah, I'm playing around with modding it and stuff like that. And I think at that point it really hit me. It's like, wow, if it's bringing that much joy in a way and excitement for individuals that see this thing for what it is, what I did to it, I kind of felt like maybe this is an opportunity. And of course, after doing all the research, not seeing that that was out there, I would bet to think that maybe other people would actually really want to have something like this too.
Yeah, and I'll second that. Um I don't think when we first met and we talked about the collaboration on the podcast and we talked about the what you have available on your website now, I have a feeling you didn't guess that I was as crazy as I said I was initially to come up with the things that I find unique. And I think we know what we're talking about that we won't share with them now because they
Sure.
have to tune in again to be a part of this. But you've already made one for me. I'll test to that, and I have more ideas. But what I think is unique about it is um like the one that we originally shared today is something that anyone, both business and personal, can not only do, but it's something that people eat, and I won't give away the secret, but even people who have cars customize, right? So um I think that it serves so many purposes because number one, it looks really cool. It looks awesome. You saw. Number two, the way I'm gonna use it is a safety way. And I
Hmm.
would tell everyone that I think my Riker is different from yours in that I have the whole touring luggage package at the back with the lights, right? And I'll tell you that I have basic things in there. I'm not someone who carries a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
But one of the things I think I learned from those years ago when I got hit was making myself bigger,
Mm.
especially in certain riding in the density of New York, even though I'm in the
Oh yeah.
suburbs. Um, I remember this summer I went to the mall and I'm riding like, and I do that with my bike. So I'll tell everyone that the mods that I do, I also try to incorporate them in a way that if you park and leave your bike, it's either something that cannot be easily taken, right?
Mhm.
Or it's so connected that you don't have to be too worried, right?
Yeah.
And that includes something that I will share later in ideas I come up with for security, because we can talk about that a bit because um, everywhere you see a lot of Rikers, people ride with them, but they can't leave them.
Mhm.
Right? They're always around their Riker. If they go to a restaurant or they go to a diner, they sit at the window looking out at the Riker that's parked outside for fear of. Whereas when I had my motorcycle, I would park it and lock it, and it didn't have to be in sight.
Right.
Right. So I've tried to design mine where I don't have so much fear. And in a moment we'll talk about one piece of tech we both like, and I'll share that piece because it's available in the market for people to use.
Yeah.
But what I was really getting to with the touring package was I was riding down a main street and I was making a right into the mall parking lot. So I put my signals on, and there's an SUV. I think he is attracted to the bike. So
Mm.
the danger at that point is he was admiring the bike and not realizing he was
Right.
closing the distance.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
watching him in my mirror. and something else I'll share on another podcast about the types of mirrors I use and the blind spot mirrors I use.
Yeah.
And I frantically start my hand out,
Hmm.
right? And he's still bearing down on me. And I'm like, the only way I'm going to make
Man.
this is if I accelerate and turn. I didn't want to do that,
Right,
right?
right, yeah.
It's a sharp turn. So I honked my horn several times. That's a safety thing we need to tell our listeners. I upgraded the Riker horn to the
Oh
dual
yes.
horn, and I honked it several times, and I kept frantically doing like this. And eventually he backed up. He saw me at the last minute because he was looking at the bike.
Right.
So a lot of what I do is to make my presence really big
Hmm.
to be seen because we know a lot of people are so distracted with cell phones and everything
Oh
these
yeah.
days, right?
Yeah.
So that's an important thing as we move forward. I think a lot of our collaborations, I know for a fact that, and you do have other merchandise on your site. Let's make sure the viewers know that. But some of the things I have in my head that I'll come to you with to collaborate on, I think will be good and bad. They'll be good that they'll make your presence more visible. They'll be bad that people might be mesmerized by them and forget about the brake on the car,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So we're gonna head down to our next segment, and let's talk about one piece of tech or might or some gear or something.
Sure.
Not something that. Well, I'll leave it up to you what you talk about.
Sure. So I gotta say, we're talking about specifically for the Riker, or and just in general.
Well, I find that a lot of my Riker mods can actually be adapted to.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
So I think based on what you've actually shared, the story you shared, I think one of the ones that I'm obsessed with, even even now, is I actually put a train horn on my Riker.
Ooh,
I put
that's
a trainer.
loud.
It's about, I think it's 12.5 inches long
Wow,
with
where'd
a
you mount
trumpet
that?
that huge. Oh yeah, that was, I want to say that was probably that was among one of the first things that I did change.
But
And
where'd
I
you
had a
mount
very
it?
I'm sorry?
Where'd you mount it?
So I'm
That's
still
key.
struggling on how to figure out where to mount it comfortably. Right now, it's actually on the right side, and so I have dual intakes on my Riker.
Right.
So it sits nudged in between the intake pipe that's coming out of the side, and I have it actually facing rearward. The trumpet side
Okay.
is facing rearward, so it just sits underneath my thigh in a way.
Okay.
So when I hit that horn, it shoots it back, but it is so loud. Um, but yeah, I mean, I had a similar experience actually, where I think again, right, people are just enamored by this weird thing, this weird machine, and they're either they've seen it before or they have never seen it before, but you don't see them very often either. And I think that's another thing, that if they have seen it before, it's always an opportunity to just kind of look and engage on it a little bit more. But I had
Right.
a similar experience where, someone was looking at, and I remember glancing to the window that they were looking at me from. And, of course I do my little nod, and I keep going forward, but they were still looking through the mirror and they almost hit someone else.
Ooh.
So to capture their attention, I just started laying on that horn, and they didn't hear my horn at that time because I didn't
Really?
have the air horn.
Oh, you had a regular horn.
I had the
Okay.
regular horn, and I honked and honked and honked and honked and honked, and nothing. They ended up actually hitting someone, and I
Ooh.
felt so bad because
They were
it
looking
almost
at
felt like
you.
I felt like it was my fault. I was like, but I was riding around, you know. They were okay. It wasn't a hard hit. We were only going we were going probably like 15 miles an hour at the time because we had just started leaving a red light,
Yeah.
and yeah, after that I was like, well, if I'm laying on my horn like that and they didn't even bother, and they were the lane next to me and they
Yeah.
couldn't hear me, then if it's a real emergency where it's me involved, I really need to change this. So I put this horn on there, and I think that's my favorite piece of gear, that I would say was one of the ones that I enjoy thoroughly, because even if I'm not using it for safety reasons, when I see little kids, in the back of the cars and they're staring at the bike, I'll do like a little honk, and it
Right.
scares them, but so they start giggling and I see that and it just brings a smile to my face, honestly.
Okay. So my favorite piece of gear so far, I have a lot of things on my bike, is as a gadget guy who's reviewed gadgets for 10 years, um, when I was a gadget, I'm no longer with the Gadgeteer, by the way.
Okay.
It changed ownership maybe in September this year, and I decided to move on along with the previous with the founder, having given it up.
Okay.
Um, I had reviewed something by a company called Chiggy, and it was AIO 5. And what it is CarPlay,
Ah,
Android or
okay.
CarPlay, right? Android, right? And when I got it, I had the Honda. I put in the Honda. You can see it on the channel and all of that. And so I got the opportunity to then review the AIO 6, which is a 6. There's a 6 Max and a 6 LTE, one
Mm,
being you can use a SIM card and one you can't. I
okay.
have the Max because everybody has their phone. I don't see the need to, you don't ride every day. I'm in winter New York. I'm not riding at all now. You certainly
Right.
don't want to be paying a bill for that.
Yep.
But why I find that one of my favorites is you got the Rever app. You have a few apps where you can set up chart. You can set up maps where
Mm,
to go. And I like to ride and specifically avoid highways, right?
yeah.
Because riding is freeing.
Oh yeah.
Riding, I remember coming back home and saying to my wife, "Did you know that 10 blocks away there was this house that had something in the front?" She's like, "Yeah, we drive through the neighborhood all the time." So I've never seen it, right?
Right. Yeah.
But when you're riding, you have that freedom. You have that, and so I was like, if I'm using the directions and the routes I know, I'm going the same route all the time because I know it. And I want to be able to explore and not get lost. I also want to be able there in New York here. There's a few right. I'm out in the suburbs in Nassau County.
Okay.
Everybody knows about the Sunrise Highway in Southern State. They're deadly.
Okay.
So even my dealership that's on Island Power Sports on Sunrise Highway, if I go there, I take the scenic route and I get onto Sunrise Highway like maybe one long block before I kind of have to make a UE go back. So I try to stay off from Sunrise Highway.
Sure.
A lot of distracted drivers, a lot of speeding drivers, daily accidents with two-wheeler motorcycles, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Rikers have a very good record, though. Again, because we were in a lane, there's not that many. And it's
Sure.
oddly enough, I saw an accident with a Riker about 2 weeks ago that someone sent to me, and it actually happened to be a motorcycle that crossed the lane and hit the Riker.
Oh wow.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Wow.
both riders didn't make it. Right,
Oh no. Wow. Okay.
but the point being is, if statistically you're very safe on the Riker, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I thought that I wanted this CarPlay, but then with my Honda, I had the similar problem where I parked the Honda and it had to be visually, in line of sight because the AIO 5 was hardwired, harness wired to the rest of the mechanism. And
Mhm.
if someone managed to get that head unit off with the harness, I don't know how they could do it, how quickly, that's the money piece of the device.
Yeah.
The AIO 6 finally got it right where the mount and you can actually press a button and take the head unit off, put it in the case,
Awesome.
lock it in your trunk or walk with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for right now, that's one of the recommended pieces of gear I would do. Again, Chingy doesn't sponsor me. I'm just saying,
For sure.
even though I reviewed several of their products, um, and they work amazingly well. Right, it's visible also in bright sunlight.
Yeah.
The touch screen is responsive. It has that, I guess, Apple type Gorilla Glass because it doesn't scratch like
All
that.
right.
So that's my favorite piece. As we roll on to this through this first episode, um, what do we want to tell our riders out there? What do we want to introduce to them that we think will bring them together and start this community, grow this community? What would you say you would want?
Man, I think what I would say is it's interesting because I've finally gotten around to going to more moto meets here locally in Michigan. And yeah, I think that specifically those who ride three wheelers, I think there is, of course there's a lot of individuals that they'll see me riding around, or they'll shake their head, or they'll make a comment about, oh, three wheels are not, it's not a real bike.
Yeah, yeah,
But to be honest with you, and I think there's like a little bit of a fear that three-wheel motorcycles have. Just go. This actually, the community is actually very, very open. Like once you actually get to like moto meets, they're very welcoming. And honestly, like I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, and just I've been kind of accepted with open arms at these meets. And needless to say, I think in my meets here in Michigan that I've been at, I'm the only one with three wheels that I've been at so far. and it's gotten to the point now where I'm even known as hey, here's the three wheel rider, you know. So I would definitely say just don't be scared to kind of go and actually make friends and meet other motor riders, because I think there is, to your point, there is a little bit more of a notion of individuals just kind of being like accepting now, you know, because it was a black sheep for the longest time. Three-wheel motorcycles were like, come on, even when the Harleys had those three-wheelers, like, you know, there was always some comment negative made here and there. And I think that now it's starting to kind of get washed away a little bit. So I would definitely say to bring the community together, be that movement of making it more normalized. Hey, you have two wheels, I got three. Guess what? We ride together.
Yes. I'll piggyback on what you're saying. And I have a close neighbor of mine from when I moved here. We became very close. Um, this is an upbeat, but I will say that even though I'm bringing this story, I'll always take the opportunity to tell him rest in peace. He died December 31st. But he was a Harley guy. I'm talking about the big, the Harley
Yeah.
guy. And I saw him riding he had like the Tour Glide, the big.
Oh, the big boy.
And
Yeah.
then I saw him one day with his girlfriend, and he was on a trike.
Hmm.
And I said, so his name was Jimmy. I said his name was James. Now, Jimmy, you riding a Harley trike? He says, yeah, man, as you get older, you need something that you can continue to enjoy riding.
Yeah.
And he says, I can't hold up that the touring bike any
It's
longer.
huge, heavy. Yep.
And I was kind of joking with him because I said, well, I have the reverse trike, which is the Riker. And I said, you Hardy guys, you were ashamed because you were making fun of us, so you put the wheels on the back, right? Because you're still a I'm a
Still a bike.
reverse striker exactly. And so I think what has happened is, as I ride around Nassau County, people look the same way they look at you, but I think mine is more dangerous because I haven't seen any other trikes go
Mm.
by me, so everybody looks at me,
Yeah.
right? Even the police, will sit there and look as I go by. And I've been trying for the longest while, and I know they're out there, hidden in garages, people riding in back roads, people riding, enjoying the comfort, but trying not to make it too public because a lot of other riders immediately will, want to make fun of them. But like you said, that stigma is dying, if not dead, because of Harley's trike.
Yeah.
Right? I'll also say this: there's a Can-Am Riker, there's a Can-Am Spider.
Yep.
The amount of money that it costs for a Harley trike, you can buy a seriously sweet Riker or Trider or Spider.
For sure.
You're on the same three wheels. You've probably got better, easier customization because of the panels on the Spider or the Riker.
Hmm.
Um, the Spider, I think, is 1300 cc's or something like that. So you got a nice engine behind it. You
For sure.
can't talk about get up and go. Be honest with you, even my 600, while the top speed is not as great as the 900, it gets up and it goes, and I've done my things to it that I'll show you later on that makes it get up and go even more,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I would love to be able to find, and this is a public shout out for all the people who see this podcast. Leave us a comment on YouTube. We do have the Moto Mosaics channel on YouTube where you'll be seeing this podcast. Leave us a comment if you're in Nassau County. Shout out to me. It's winter now, but let's see if we can get together in the spring and the summer. Even if it's once in a while to begin with. I know I'm not the only person out here with a Riker
Hey.
because there's a Riker dealership within 3 miles of my house. And they
Yeah.
can't keep Rikers or Spiders. They sell out. So where are you?
Right.
Right? I did see a
Um,
guy on Sunrise Highway maybe 2 months ago with a Spider. So I know they're out there. Let's build the community.
let's do it.
I'd love to share my mods with you. Safety mods, Madman Wrench mods. Get your input and your feedback for new ideas that we're willing to do the testing and the design and research and create them, and you do something unique. It might turn out more to be something that we like or something that we both like or something that they like, but it will be something new and different There's a lot going on out there. Shout out to many of the Shut Up and Ride that does sound systems, King Joffrey Joe 413, Riker Doctor, all these people who've got, I think Riker Doctor's in Brooklyn too, right? Isn't
I
he?
believe so, actually.
Yes. And these are all people who are not that far. We were in New York and some are not. But the point is, we all have this passion.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the first episode of Madman Wrench Works, collaborating with 247 Tech Talk from Moto Mosaics. Um, I'm excited to start this journey with you. I'll tell the listeners out there, if you meet Ludwig, you couldn't meet a nicer person and a more passionate person
Cheers.
about this. Um, I have not decided which one of us is crazier yet when it comes to bikes, but we would love to have you join us, um, be a part of this. It's been my pleasure to start this first episode with you, and look forward to. I don't think we've decided. Maybe we'll do one once a month. If the users want more, we'll bring more. If you have,
We'll give them more if you want it.
if the viewers have a lot more questions, we'll make sure that we accommodate them to answer them. So stay tuned, like, share, subscribe. Until the next time, I'm Julian Perry, host of 247 Tech Talk.
I'm Ludwin Cruz with Madman Wrenchworks
And together we are Moto.
Mosaics.
Catch you in the next episode.